No mas. Oh,
For Newton.
hello. Woo.
We have an eyeball.
It's like music playing now.
It's fixing to. It'll go mute when it does.
We always do this awkward stuff beforehand. Like it's
Awkward.
totally unnecessary and it's probably wrong, but we do it every week
Social
anyway.
media face.
And I got to cut it all out when I do the audio.
Yeah, because I gotta wait till it starts playing on YouTube, even though my internet's slow.
Super slow.
Bro, I got bad smoke signals outside
The
right now.
internet guy's got.
There we are. All right, y'all ready?
Mm-hmm.
Here we go.
Welcome to Creative Makers Podcast with your host, Joey with Steel Blade Woodworks, Matt with Wacky Works Workshop, Jen with Jen's Turns, Jamie with JP Woodwork, and Jake with Northside Custom Crafts.
Welcome to Creative Makers Podcast, episode 76. I'm Joey with Steel Blade Woodworks, and today we have Mr. Bossa Nova Woodworks.
You got it.
There it is. It's below. I don't need to.
Why is this so much
there?
bigger
It's
than
fine.
ours? Man,
Huh? Yeah.
different.
I didn't even need to really call it out since it's below his name there, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
hey,
it's fine.
overachiever we got here.
They don't even give us that option.
How you doing, Malcom?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for joining us. And just right here, we'll start it off and just give us a little background of how you got started and all this craziness that you do here.
Oh my God. Okay, so I have always been a maker. I feel like I've always tried to I've been, my dad raised me to repair things and DIY and everything. And then I kind of got into Halloween stuff years and years ago. And was just, trying to always get handy. And then the pandemic hit, like a lot of folks, I just started buying more tools and just, found myself kind of isolated during that time because I worked from home, but it was an unplanned work from home situation. So anyway, during that time, I think really YouTube videos and podcasts, they were teaching me a lot of things, but they were also kind of filling a void for me because I was used to going into a place every single day. And during that time, it was like having people speak to me. So I constantly had a stream of makers. I was watching their content all the time. I was absorbing everything. I was going and practicing those things. And somehow along the way, I ended up, just deciding to create a little business, not a serious business, but just to be able to create a social media presence because I had made friends with several content creators over the years and started making content just to kind of make them laugh or just to share with the community, which I found the Instagram woodworking community to be amazing. And so I just joined into that community and made a lot of friends and replaced all those people I used to see in an office, with people in the Instagram woodworking community. They're way more expensive because I have to travel to see them most of the time. But, that's how I got where I am now.
Awesome.
All righty. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. And for the people at home, my name is Jake Thompson from Northside Custom Crafts. I usually do an icebreaker. My icebreaker for you, Bossa Nova, is how did you become Bossa Nova? How'd that happen?
Well, so Bossa Nova is a business name that I've used a couple of times over the past, 10, 15 years for different businesses. And so how I came to that name was one of my favorite bands was the Pixies, and one of their albums is called Bossa Nova. And then I said, I was really just looking for a name that no one else was using at the time. So I looked that up. No one was using it. I thought it sounded cool. But then I started really researching what Bossa Nova was, not just the name of a Pixies album, and found that it was, for most of you already know probably, but it was a music movement in the 50s and 60s out of Brazil. It was loosely based on, I think, samba, tango, something like that. And it translated, one of the translations of Bossa Nova in Portuguese was a different beat. And I thought, well, that's cool. And also I really admired the album artwork from that time. And so I kind of based my artistic style over the years on a lot of that music and the art and just the spirit of that.
Cool.
Let me know if my answers are too short. We talked about this in the
No,
beginning.
they're definitely. I love them.
If they're not, I'll be like, hey, so can you elaborate on that a little bit?
We need him a little longer, Malcolm, please.
Sure.
So
Back when I was born.
back in 1956. No. Everybody at home, my name is Matt with Wacky Works. Malcolm, my question for you is, since you tricked me into, following you with your facial features of being like Nick Offerman, how many other people actually make that comment to you?
Every woodworking event, I get people come up to me. In fact, at last Workbench Con, Jimmy DeResta, who I'd met and talked with a couple times before, came over to me and he's like, how many times do you get mistaken for Nick Offerman? I'm like, all the time. But I'm like a discount Ron Swanson. So looks like you ordered Nick Offerman off of Temu. And he was like, that's hilarious. So he took a picture of me. We took a picture together on his phone. And he used to work with, or still, knows Nick Offerman. So he sent that selfie to Nick and was like, this is not you, is it? And throughout the rest of the event, I kept finding Jimmy like I was sitting at a table with him and didn't realize that he was recording me like the next day or something, but he was recording a video of me and I look up and he just starts busting out laughing. It was taking a video and he's like, are you sure this is not you, Nick? Like, I get sick for that a lot. Unfortunately, that's not the way I wanted to meet or have the government know who I am, but that's it.
Hey, I'll take his paychecks.
Welcome, Malcolm. I'm Jamie from JP Woodwork. I'd like to ask you about your 3D printer cart. How did that come about and what does it do?
Oh, thank you for that. So Adam Savage has a one-day build where he was building on his print farm. He's done a couple of one-day builds where he's just continued to iterate on it. And I thought it was a really cool concept. I just got into 3D printing, getting a Bamboo Lab P1S and an AMS on top of that just recently, and this summer, in fact. But I wanted to keep it in the office because my shop isn't climate controlled. My wife still parks in half of it, and the printer just wasn't a good place for it because of all the dust. So I saw that he had this build, but he built it out of plywood where it would do the filament storage as well. I'm in Southeast Virginia. The relative humidity inside is like 65 at almost all times. So it's not a good place to store filament. So I thought his build looked good. I wanted to be able to have it on wheels and I needed it to fit in my office furniture, which we're redoing the office right now. So I'm building the furniture for that. So my challenge was to try to recreate his build with the filament storage, but also make it look like office furniture. And if I wanted to do a really long print, I could wheel it out because I work in here. I have a day job. I'm on conference calls all day. So it's making a lot of noise. It's like right over there. But it used to be right here on this table, which people couldn't hear it, but it was so loud to me. I'd have to like lean into the speaker just to hear people. So I just wanted to be able, if I wanted to do a very long print, I wanted to wheel it out into the hallway and plug it in there and just let it print for, if it was a couple of days or something. So that's how it came to be.
So is that whole thing? Cool. Yeah, it does. Is that whole thing sealed up all the way around? Because it looks like it's just a door.
Relatively. It's got a small humidifier on the inside of it, some LED lights and some racks. I tried to use some window seal, just strips. And it turned out it didn't make a difference. I did different experiments and it just really didn't. It's got a plexiglass front, but it just didn't make any difference with or without them. I left them on there. It kind of looks from the side ridiculous. Looks like a refrigerator door a little bit, but most people don't see it that way when they come in. It just looks great from the front. So,
that's a good idea. I never even thought about that. All the filament that I have is to make a cabinet. I never even thought about that. Make a cabinet. I have enough room in here. Huh.
You built a big enough cabinet. You just got to put a door on it.
His build was great. And then I made a hickory top board, which was kind of a mistake because I loved working with hickory, but I've never made a tabletop out of it and learned why I don't want to ever make a tabletop out of it again. What? But no, But it also it looks great, but it also came out a little rustic for the style of this is more modern in here in the office. So it's fine because the printers are on top of it, but in general, I would do it a little differently next time. But yeah, the cabinet idea is great.
So what's wrong with the hickory for people that don't have trees?
It's tough. It's tough on your tools. And I didn't do my due diligence to pick the right boards. So I just went and got a bunch of hickory that was kind of discounted hickory, but it turned out okay. But it had a lot of knot holes. I had a lot of chunks out of it from my planer, and it tore it up. So I had to do a lot of repair to it in order to get it. And I'm not like the kind of guy that's done a lot of tables and wants to do bow ties and inlays and stuff like that. I may one day, but this project for a cabinet was not something I wanted to do. So.
I can promise you, it doesn't matter that you picked out discounted lumber. You can pick out the best hickory. It is still hard to work with. I did a bunch of
hard work with, and I've already worked with it a lot for smaller projects, but on a larger project, it was a challenge.
Yeah, it'll wear your tools right out.
So does the dehumidifying part of it work to what you expected, or do you need to?
Yeah, it keeps it about 40%, which is fine. Recommended it for like all of it is about 45. I'm a noob to this, so as far as I know, like that's fine. I think during the summer I couldn't get it really below 42, but I'll live with that. It's better than the 60+% that's in my office.
Right.
Okay. That's interesting. I'm gonna have to come up.
Question from the Wooden Mustache. How is the raised platform working out that you did on the top of your P1S?
That's an awesome question, Matthew. Like it's a great. I love it. It's amazing. So for those that may not have seen it, it is a print that you can find relatively easily. It's a riser for the AMS on the automatic material system that goes on top of P1S or any other printer that you have that accommodates that. But it keeps this riser and it has a ledge built into it. You print this out. Didn't take too long to print. It was a little bit of a rough print, but again, it doesn't matter because no one's really looking at it. The ledge helps me to take the glass top off the P1S and raise it up about an inch and have it sit there for venting during when you want to print PET-G or you want to print AMS. I mean, anything that needs to be vented, right? I mean, no, it's PLA that you want to vent. The stuff that you don't want to vent, you want to keep the heat in, you bring it back down and lay it on the top. So it gives you those options to print vented or not vented. But also it allowed me to put a ring light on top of the glass and that have enough space so that whether I pull it out and lower it down, the ring light kind of comes with it, which lights up the whole inside of the printer. So it was a cool build.
Nice.
At first, I saw that post and it was like the glass was on it. I'm like, well, how does that work? And then you pull it out and then you slide that thing in there. I was like, that's pretty slick. It was pretty.
Yeah,
cool.
I take a little bit of clear Gorilla Tape just to keep the ring light from sliding around too much on top of it, but it works out really well and it just lights everything up because I always want to check things on my phone or my computer. The camera, I can't see anything most of the time with the built-in light, so that's definitely made a big difference.
That
Did
thing
you find that on
big.
MakerWorld? Oh,
yeah, I think I might have found it on any one of the platforms, but my default is if I can't find it on MakerWorld, go to Things and search for the AMS riser, and you can go to my profile and kind of look for what it looks like. And I'm not sure if I put the name of it in that post. So you can go searching for that.
Was that like a pretty long print?
I would say it was probably like most things, like, probably it's all one. No, it's not all one piece. It's 4 pieces. So, and they come together with like dovetail. It's pretty cool dovetail notches that link it together. So 4 pieces, it probably took a better part of a day, maybe a day and a half, but well worth it.
It looked cool.
Cool. Malcolm, you recently took a trip up to Maker Camp. Give us your input on that. What do you think of that? Is that something that people need to try out if they like somebody like us that are way down here in Texas? Is it something that we need to go check out?
So absolutely. Like I've gone to Workbench Con, I've gone to Maker Camp. I'm not a professional content creator. I probably don't belong in either. But what I would say is, having gone to both of them twice now, it's Maker Camp all the way. Like if you it's sort of like, even for the content creators that go there, it's a break from all of that. Like you just get to go hang out with people and go make things or learn new skills. And if you don't want to do that, you're still just hanging out with people. But there's not like this business meetings. You're not trying to talk with brands. This is what some of my friends have told me. And you're not, on all the time. In fact, you don't really have cell phone signal up there very well. So posting things is not job one. Like I saw people this year that were kind of new to content creation, and they were like, had ideas for how they were going to post and do things. And then they got up there and it's just like, it doesn't work. And then you could just sort of see them being like, hey, you know what, it's time to take the break. So I love it. It's hands-on. I got to make an axe this year that took almost all of my time while I was at Maker Camp, and I wouldn't have had it any other way. I hadn't planned to make that axe, but Nick Birchtold, who's a freaking genius, gave me this handle and just sent me on this side quest to go make this axe, and literally probably interacted with as many people as I would have had I gone to the classes, because I probably went to half the different tents trying to get help to sharpen this or clean this up or mount this on, or hang it onto the handle. So Maker Camp all the way. It's a trek, but it is so worth it. Way more worth it than, for me at least, for Workbench Con, because I got feelings about that. We can talk about another time.
Well, what was the dose? I mean, what was Workbench Con compared to? I mean, I live here in Atlanta, and I've never been to Workbench Con, which is kind of weird.
So Workbench Con is probably different for me because I'm a white collar worker that's used to going to conferences and going into meetings and being in conference rooms and listening to speakers, doing seminars or whatever. And I'm on vacation technically, and I'm at this thing, and I'm like, do I really want to go into another conference room and listen to people like that are going to basically, sorry, hot take, tell me what I already know, or I could, research online. I like all those people that were speakers. And I did get there was some, Michael Alm had an incredible speech. There's always folks that bring good content to that. However, this year, I if I go, it will just be to hang out and see everybody. Like, so if I lived in Atlanta, I wouldn't get a ticket. I would just go hang in that lobby. That lobby is where everything happens of that Renaissance Hotel. I mean, I know people last year that, or earlier this year, that did not buy a ticket, but they traveled into town and they hung out at that hotel and they were not missing anything. So you
hear a lot about that. I mean, I've heard that multiple times, not from you. Some will tell you, go try it at least one time, and then after that, have the experience, and then you can make your decision. I'm more of an outdoors type person, and I just feel that Maker Camp, it's just the vibe up there. You're out in the open. Down here, we have no trees. It's just scrub brush,
it's just
flat
wind.
land. Yeah. And hotter than heck. So to get up there and see rocks, or what I would consider mountains, maybe they consider them hills. I don't know. We're in the mountains, and it's like, we got trees. I'd go hug a tree for a while. I tell you that much. I would definitely go, because I don't know what big trees are.
Where else are you going to go? There's a whole huge, massive tent full of forges with blacksmiths doing classes and stuff, like, or welding, or hat making, or leather crafting, or tent making. I mean, they had the craziest things there this time. So, yeah, absolutely, Maker Camp all the way.
That's cool.
I really take for granted the trees and stuff like that, being down in Georgia. And, I walk out my front door and I got 2 silver maples sitting there. I have 3 oak trees over there. And I went to go visit Jake, and I was like, literally, I was in Oklahoma, and I'm like, what is he talking about? There's trees everywhere. And I literally, as soon as you hit the border of Texas, and it was like, there was nothing. I was like, where did it all go?
There you go, some trees to a steakhouse, man.
I will say that I work in Atlanta a lot, so I go there 4 or 5 times a year just for my day job, and so I like going to Atlanta. It's cool, but it's nothing special. So that's not another reason to go to Workbench Con. If I literally the pull for both those events is always about seeing my friends, which is worth it if I can swing it, but Maker Camp all the way.
Yeah, dude, we get excited. We go up to San Antonio or get up to like New Braunfels where it's considered like the hill country. And it's like we're in freaking mountains. And then you start seeing trees and it's like, whoa,
Wow.
this is freaking
How tall they
beautiful.
are.
Just take that for granted,
And-
man.
No.
Exactly.
And then, on the way back, it's like, oh, we're getting close to home because it starts getting flat and burnt from it being so hot. And it's just nothing but scrub brush. And you can see as far as you want to see. It's just like
It's so green where I live. I'm on the coast, but also like my daughter goes to college about 3 hours away, so I have to drive up into the mountains like near Shenandoah Valley, and so I guess I've just gotten used to it.
Oh,
Feel
poor
bad.
guy.
you can
Poor
stop
guy.
bragging now. You can stop bragging. You're starting to be like
Humble brag. I got trees. I got grass.
Now, there are some downfalls to having tried. Today, I had to take out 2 leaf blowers at the same time.
Oh
to
my
blow
God,
leaves
the
off
leaves
my
right now are
driveway.
trying to kill me. Yeah, the oak trees are trying to take me
Whatever.
out.
I'm
Sure.
telling you.
I'm gonna keep this on Maker Camp or Workbench Con for a while. Obviously, you're gonna meet a whole bunch of people that you watch on YouTube and stuff. So I want to know who was the best creator you met and who was the worst. I'm just kidding.
Name names.
Let's see. What if they're in the room?
I haven't been, so it wasn't me.
That wasn't me.
Or the chat.
you might think different after the show, but
Who did so? I'll rephrase that. Who was someone that you maybe not even expected to see there or whatever? They just like overwhelmed you by how cool they were.
I mean, who I expected. I mean, everyone was pretty cool. The first time that I went to Workbench Con, I had imposter syndrome, and also these were all my rock star heroes. Whatever. 6 months later, when I went to Maker Camp, I did not care about any of the. But thank you. I did not care. Like it did
Well
not
done.
faze me. The only person that I got starstruck with at Maker Camp last year was Laura Kampf. I did not expect to just see her walking around, and I was like, "Oh my God, I almost lost my mind." But there were everyone else that I met, and it was like, I think you go through that cycle one time of like, oh, here's somebody I really admire, and then after that, they're just kind of like, maybe when you see that they're just kind of like another person, right? So, and you could have that regular conversation with them. The first time I went to Workbench Con, the first person that I knew but hadn't met that just walked up to me and hugged me was Shar from Wood Maven. We had talked. I didn't know anyone there when I walked into the event, and she just was like immediately like, "Hey, it's good to see you," and that blew me away.
That probably helped too.
It definitely did. And then because it takes a lot for you to go into an event of 250, 300 people, whatever it is, and not know a soul and just try to go, make conversation with folks. No matter who you are, that takes a lot. And so I had also known Drew Witt, who we're really good friends now. And but at the time, I just had met him a little bit. He also didn't know anyone going into the conference, and walked up and immediately hugged me too, which was super weird, but that's Drew. And there's a lot of hugging at Workbench Con and at Maker Camp. Now that I think about it, there's a lot of hugs.
As long as they can hug without eye contact.
It's when they hold on.
Yeah.
It's like Daniel
Like, it's a little
Dunlap.
weird.
Daniel Dunlap holds on to me, and then it makes me feel things.
It makes you feel things.
No, just kidding, Dan. So Drew was another one that was great to we had talked for a long time, and just to meet someone, and he was is now also a really big, what I consider a big time YouTuber, but at the time he was pretty decent size. And then Travis from Shop Nation, hanging with him because he was tight with Drew, and so we just sort of worked outward from there to meet everyone. I think the longest conversation I had was with Brad Rodriguez, who we just shot The Breeze. It's another one for you guys. I'm trying.
Yeah.
For a little while, and that was also just a great conversation in general. But there's too many to name. Lots of folks that were there. No one was I think there were some folks that were maybe a little standoffish to some people. Maybe they were that to me, but I didn't notice or didn't care. I just wasn't in that headspace. I've never really been like if someone doesn't want to talk to me, I'm like, okay, fine. Like it's not really. I've lowered my expectations. They are not like television or movie celebrities, right? So they're just some YouTubers that I like what they have to offer. I like to talk to them, but they're, outside of this little conference, people aren't usually walking down the street going, "Oh my God, there's John Malecki," or whoever, right? So
and you've been on, Parks and Rec, so it's
that's right.
So did you get to have any kind of conversation with Laura?
Oh yeah, twice now. It was amazing. Last year, you mean at your maker camp, right?
Wherever you met her, I met her and she changed my life. She changed my life.
She had so I'd like to hear about that. But I just was walking across the field, and she was coming from the tool restoration tent and had like smudges of grease. That's what happens when you go work on a tool there. Like you restore it, you get grime all over you. So she's walking back with the square that she had restored, and there's smudges on her face and everything. And I'm like, I'm really sorry to do this to you. I haven't done it to anyone here, but I'm starstruck. Can I please just talk to you for a few minutes? I didn't ask for a selfie or any of that. I don't know why I've never gotten a selfie with her. I just liked the conversation. And so I was just commenting about, because we had a little bit in common. She had just moved, had done a series of videos on her moving from Germany to the United States. And she was becoming a blended family. I'm a blended family, became a stepdad, when the kid was really young. And I was just talking to her about how much I liked her storytelling for that and how she was getting into some things. And then I ran into her again this maker camp, and she showed me how to play a card game. I just sat with her for a little while, and she was playing a card game with her friend. And, she's just so easy to talk to. Amazing.
I was in Maker Central in 2019. Imposter syndrome. I didn't know anybody. I was there, like a little bit of a following, but I don't know. Never been to any kind of thing before. She's real busy. She's walking around fast. She walks fast. She's tall, fast.
Yep.
And I was afraid to go talk to her. And finally, she was coming by, and I was like, if she comes down here, I'm going to talk to her. So she come this way, and I went out there, and she could see that I wanted to talk to her. And she came up to me and started talking to me, and we started talking. I showed her the thing that I made or whatever, and she's real cool. And I asked me if I had any viral videos. I'm like, no. And she was like, good, you don't want them. It brings bad people and all that kind of stuff. And then, what do you want to do? I want to go full time. And she was like, don't. The advice was, don't dress for the job you have, dress for the job you want.
She's
and
amazing.
Not too much longer. I'm full time, and I've been full time for 3 or 4 years now. Yeah,
she's so great. Really, just a different presence. And the same presence that you see in her videos is the same that you get. Like, it's just so genuine.
It's almost like she knows exactly what to tell you.
Or she's just being herself. Like, I think that's a skill in and of itself. It's just, to be yourself. Yeah.
That's exactly what she said. It was exactly what I needed to hear at that moment. So that was pretty cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Awesome story.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to talk about Halloween, and I've seen some of your posts that you've done for Halloween. You've I think you kind of go out for it. But tell me some of your craziest creations that you've done out there. I know you've done a couple things, and I'd like to hear about it.
Yeah, over the years, it's just grown for a long time. I had one that came back to haunt me, which was, so you get it, was the bride, this ghost bride, headless ghost bride. And it's because I lost a bet with my wife and daughter at the time. This is like, I don't know, 8 years ago, when I really didn't know what I was doing with a lot of this stuff. I just slapped something together, but they wanted a ghost bride. They had seen something on Pinterest or whatever. And I was like, okay, fine. We're going to need a wedding dress. And they said, we can go get a wedding dress. It's like right before Halloween. And I'm like, okay, sure, you can get a wedding dress around here. You'll find that easily. Sure. They're like, we don't believe us. I'm like, no. So
Find it.
you know what? If you go find a wedding dress tonight, then I like they were going to go to Goodwill or something. I'm like, then I'll build the dress. I think I know what I will do. And then they came back an hour later with this wedding dress from like the 80s or 90s.
Sucker.
And I was like, insert curse word here. And so I decided to go build a chicken wire, and not knowing what I was doing with chicken wire, I got scratches all over me as I'm sculpting this thing, and then trying to think about getting a wedding dress over top of a chicken wire form. It's just
all that lace.
just like, oh man. And then I finally got it and then strung white Christmas lights through it and everything, and it looked pretty decent. I found a skull. Since this was like 8 or 10 years ago, it wasn't easy to just 3D print something, which I did this last time when I rebuilt her. But I found a skull.
Used a friend's skull. I got it.
Finding a prop skull that was actually the size proportionate to when you find them, just like the skeletons you find, they're like child size, right? So when you try to put like any kind of clothing or put them into whatever, it just doesn't proportionally look right, back then at least. So I found a skull that was okay, modified it, put a wig on it, and put it in her hands because she was supposed to be headless, and put it in the front window of our house. And it was a big hit for a while. But every year I had to take it out of the attic and then bring it all the way down and then set her up. And I would just get scratched, like no matter what I did. So I finally, got frustrated last year. And then this year I rebuilt her using a dress form. Still has some chicken wire, but I had ordered one of the dress forms that you find in like a dress shop to put on. And then I 3D printed the skull and got that working. But my Halloween display has really grown to the point where now I don't want to do it anymore. So I'm probably going to start to scale back as of like maybe next year. I'm proud of what we've done and it looks awesome. But I've visited some other houses recently that go way all out and talked to some of those people, and they're like, oh yeah, long ago I had to start getting storage units, and I'm like, okay, that's where I tap out. I'm already hating the fact that I got to bring everything down. I have a 2-story house plus an attic. I have to take it down the attic stairs. There's like 30 trips up and down there, and no one helps me with that. So I'm up and down getting this stuff out and getting it set up. So after like a week-long setup, I'm just beat. And so I'm probably going to scale some of that back. But I'm happy with what I've created. Probably the most recent addition was a bubbling cauldron. I figured out a way to take an automatic dog water bowl, if you know what I'm talking about, it refills, and put that inside of a cauldron that I made out of a beer tub, and hook a hose up to it so that if I put these little atomizers in it that are used for like pond displays or whatever, and they just shoot kind of like steam out, that the hose would just automatically refill it. So the timer comes on, the atomizers go off. It gives this nice little mist without doing a full-on fog machine, which floods your whole street. And it's cool with lights underneath it. It looks pretty cool. And once I set it up, I don't have to keep refilling the water. So that's just some of the things that I've done recently with it.
Nice.
There you go. A little while ago, you mentioned Michael Alm, and I've noticed you've made a few items using patterned plywood. So how do you come up with your designs, and how long does something like that take?
I just experimented after watching Michael Alm do it for a while, and then I was like, what else can I make out of this? So all I do, a lot of times when it's like something like patterned plywood, I made some jewelry stands out of it and whatnot, but I don't seriously sell things. So I'll like make something, I might give it away or put it on as a listing, but then I don't go back and remake them. But in that case, a lot of times I'm just figuring it out as I like, we'll glue this together and I'll plan it down. I'll see what it looks like and then see if I can cut this down. And then I'll be like, oh, that didn't work out. So then I'll have to fix that mistake. So it's all about fixing mistakes, right? So I'll just keep on fixing the mistakes, and then it turns into something kind of cool. For the rest of my designs, I have had SketchUp in the past, and that's helpful if I'm doing some kind of cabinet layout or something. But I almost always go back to pen and paper with graph paper and just start drawing it out. And it's helpful for me. I'll be like on a plane coming back from a business trip or something, or just with some downtime, and I will just start sketching my next thing. And that's really helpful for me with the graph paper. It's like a crutch. I can't get into the 3D modeling because I keep going back to the paper.
Yeah. I can't get that.
Even my cut lists end up in paper. Like I'll try to use some kind of optimizer, but then I'll just be like, I'm not going to print this. I'll just write this down, and then it's always something. And then I'll make modifications as I go because it always changes.
Yeah. There you go.
Since you are the guy that made AWP with that beautiful, sexy voice of yours,
Contractually obligated to wear this shirt is the voice of AWP.
There you go. How did you come about that, and how many other things have you done with using your voice?
Well, I've mostly I've just done things, either my own content or stuff for AWP. I never really set out to do voiceover work, but there is something really fun to me about saying something in a smooth voice that sounds completely inappropriate. So I have sent them many things, and some of them they use in the podcast, but some things are just not suitable for the podcast. I'll try out different things for them, like outros or whatever, but or coupon code type things. But they were looking after Mike Coffey left, and before Braden became the third host, Mike did the intro, so they needed to replace that, and they had a contest to say, like, who can send something in, and I decided, I was going to send in something, but I kept all my outtakes because I usually write scripts and for everything that I do. If you see me doing a collab with another maker on Instagram, it's usually because I sent them a script. I have a script. I try to stick to it, but not, too much. But when I do voiceover stuff, I also use a script, even for some simple stuff, just so I stay on target, because I will ramble if you can't tell by this answer. But I have all these outtakes always. Like, I will have to repeat things over and over, and I'll screw it up and screw it up and screw it up again and cuss a lot. So I made their actual intro. I gave 3 intros for them, and they chose the okayest podcast of its type, which is great. But I also sent them a whole long list of all the outtakes and put like the beep noises in there, because I just thought it was really funny, and then also put that reel in my profile. And I think it was the bloopers reel that actually convinced them that I should win the prize, which means I get to keep working for them.
I'll let you do this for free.
Yeah.
I am an AWP employee, sir. Do not discuss my salary.
Have you done any more, like, other podcasts out there? Have you done anything?
No, so I've been on a couple of podcasts, and it's always a running joke that they're asking me if I'll do the voiceover, and I'm like, intro or whatever, and I'm like, nope, only for AWP. So, but I have offered friends, and we'll offer it to anyone that's listening here, because I when I create content, I'm in it for love of the game. I just like doing it, right? So if you've got a really funny idea, and that the caveat there is, you got to have an idea and you got to write a script, and it's got to be good. But whatever, you send it to me, I'll say it for you. I will read a voiceover for whatever you want. So
there you go. Everybody out there, here's your man.
I'm happy to do it.
Stick to voiceovers. I struggle with them, and a lot of other people do. And obviously, you said you do. Do you have it as you've done it? Have you found any tips or tricks that have made it easier for you?
Always a script. I can't say that enough. Like, even if it's just an outline of what you're going to say, having the story outline will keep you on track, and some lines that you're going to say. if you're doing video with your voiceover, then one trick that I've recently discovered is like, say, like I'm doing a talking head like this at the computer, but then I'm also putting in some B-roll shop footage or anything else. If I'm going to have to clearly look at the script while I'm talking, that's when I'll cut away and cover that up with me at the saw or me doing something else, like just to cover that fact. But don't be afraid to use this, even if you've got like an iPad below you or a piece of paper like nearby. I see a lot of content creators do this. I mean, who's like a really good example? I think Chris Salamone from Four Eyes Furniture, even during his ad reads, will show the piece of paper, but a lot of times he'll also like say the line, end of the line to the camera, but he'll go back and you can clearly see that he's reading from a piece of paper. So those are some tips. Also do a million takes. Just let it ride, man. And you know, it sucks to go back through and edit those, but if you're doing it on camera, even if you're only going to use the voiceover part, a lot of times if I'm going to start over again, I'll just raise my hand so that as I'm scrubbing through the camera footage, I know, okay, I started over here and then can go back to that.
That's a good tip.
Yeah, I have a lot of problems. I think trying to do this intro on this show, I don't know how many times and a lot of cuss words happened while I was doing it. And then just a part of feeling silly and then trying to keep up as the logos are coming in. I mean, it was horrid. I think I took about a whole day here just back and forth deleting. Oh my goodness, is bad.
Is horde kind of like a board?
What's the board?
Board.
Like for the horde?
No, don't make fun of my accent.
Horde board.
The horde.
Too late. Too late.
It's not an accent, it's an attitude.
Yeah.
It's a horde attitude.
Here you go. Got Madeira Design out there. He has a famous name too, Trevor Davies.
Yeah, he does.
But that's the wrong one.
That's the wrong one.
What's the best way to sound natural and not robotic when you're doing the voiceover, when you're reading?
Do it a bunch of times. Like literally keep it recording, read it verbatim, then do it again, then do it again, then do it again. Like the more that you do it, eventually it's going to sound natural. It sounds like a lot of work, but you only have to keep the good one. So also, you know, if you're good at editing, you can take the chunks of this sounds good from this take and this one doesn't. Try to leave the spaces though in between the sentences to allow for that. A lot of times I do that because I will catch my breath on the recording and I've got to edit that out anyway. So it's not like I'm a professional here, but I mean, this is what I've learned how to do is that, you know, you say your sentence, give it a pause, even if it's just like a quick pause, and then go and just keep redoing those. And you can do the whole thing all at once and you'll eventually find the right take. Does that help?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
That catching your breath is a bad deal
You
when you're
got 'em.
trying to say it all at.
Here's another one. See, Joey, I got it too. Another one. Do you use specific program for voiceovers?
At my computer, I use QuickTime to do the initial recording, and then I will often pull it into. I've got to convert it, but I will then, or I guess I should probably skip straight to Audacity. But Audacity is where I will go, and that's the program I will use to like do the final edits. Because there's an AI tool in that you can download. I think I may have paid a $5 charge for it or something, but no, I have the free version, which only does 60 seconds, but it will take up to 60 seconds of audio and then smooth things out, remove the background noise. You can play with the levels so it doesn't sound too robotic. I don't do that with every single thing, but I will often get the QuickTime or whatever it is. If I'm doing it on my phone, I have a setup that uses wireless mics from I can't remember, DJI wireless mics in the shop. It makes a huge difference when I'm doing that. Often that's doing video at the same time, but and then I'll have a couple apps on my phone that will edit the video. I almost always record video with the audio so that I can trim down in whatever video editor I'm using and then export the audio out and play with it in another program.
Nice.
All right, Malcolm, you seem like you're a sci-fi guy. Is that correct?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Just a little bit. So give me your top 5.
Top 5
Mm-hmm.
sci-fi movies,
Yeah.
or sci-fi
Hot dog toppings.
like
Let's go top 5
Ketchup.
sci-fi movies.
I would say probably all the Star Wars, and not every single one, but the originals. And I really love the Mandalorian
Mm-hmm.
series. I think that really breathed a lot of life back into the franchise. I loved Andor, actually only because I loved Rogue One so much. I think that was just a really great, an epic movie. And so maybe Andor, a lot of people didn't really like Andor because it was more storytelling and a lot less action. But because it led up to what happened in Rogue One, I just like that a lot. I love a lot of comics stuff, so it's not just sci-fi. Like right now, I'm really digging The Penguin on HBO. I think that's amazing. It's an amazing series. So that's it's not just the Star Wars stuff, but it's literally any kind of comic, sci-fi, fantasy, anything else that I can get a hold of.
Is there a series that you wish was never canceled?
No, I don't. Not that I
It's
can
Old
think
House.
of. There probably is a series. Would you hate me if I said I never watched This Old House?
No, I wouldn't hate you.
All right. Or New Yankee Workshop. Okay, I'm sorry. I never watched it. I should have. I feel bad for it, but I never did. Yeah.
All right, I'd like to go back to your 3D printer. What is your go-to brand and type of filament?
I really have stuck with Bamboo Labs filaments only because I'm risk averse when it comes to that. I've tried a couple of other brands and had to change hot ends out because of that, but also I don't really know what I'm doing. I got into 3D printing at the time I thought was the most appropriate, where the learning curve was like non-existent and I didn't have to spend my time researching or even working on a 3D printer. That's not a thing I want to do. So I wanted to be able to start to learn, but I waited many years for that to kind of level out. And I feel like last year it really started to, with Bamboo Lab disrupting everything, it really started to take a lot of that out and put some of the, more accessibility for everyone in. So right now I'm doing PLA and PETG HF from Bamboo Lab, but there are some other good filaments out there that get recommended to me. I've just been burned a couple of times by some Amazon purchases, so I'm a little worried.
Yeah, I've got my really two that I stay with, and the one that when I started doing it was Pryline. I stay with it, and it's very good. Never had any issues with it, and then recently I started using Elegoo, and I haven't had a problem with it. It ran fine. You do use some Sunlu. Haven't had any issues with it either. But those are really, I stick to Pryline and Elegoo. Pryline's my go-to if I can find it cheap enough, because I use a lot of it. So a lot of times I'm not going to pay the $18-20 a reel. It's just not. I'm just not going to do it because it takes away from my profits. But
correct. And I'm not manufacturing anything. A lot of times I'm doing multicolor printing, but I am still just a hobbyist here. But I have had to branch out into some Sunlu and whatnot. I have had good luck because there were certain metallic pigment, like I needed a purple metallic, and that was for my daughter's college. Like JMU was purple and gold. I couldn't do the muted kind of pastel colors that Bamboo Led have, so I had to get some other silk variants in order to print some things. But that was just, it's not all the time. I think my big mistake was probably going with some brand of ABS that tore up my hot end there.
Oof.
That doesn't even sound good, but yeah. Sounds like Taco Bell.
That's like worse than just itching.
That'll do it. Definitely tearing that hot end.
Mm-hmm.
I think you got a question there from Madeira, Jake, I believe.
Oh, the considering.
He's full of questions today.
Yeah, you consider doing a story time podcast where you just read bedtime stories for people to fall asleep to.
That's legit. There's a guy on YouTube that does that, or I don't know that it's a podcast, but there's a guy who I have used some of his videos sometimes. It's like natural melatonin, and he's just in a calm, it's animated even, and he's just like telling you some kind of story about, hey, so you can't sleep or whatever. But that's legit. I would totally do that.
My favorite one I've ever heard of somebody doing that was Matthew McConaughey. He does it. He'll be like, all right, let's get into the story.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see doing that. Yeah.
Heck, I've woken up and my wife likes to listen to the dang beach. Like that's like her soothing deal. And I wake up in the morning, I'm like, God dang, water running. What the hell's going on down here? And I'm like, I'm looking, and she has that phone playing over there, just going, and that's what she uses at night sometimes. It's crazy. Okay. Go ahead, Jamie.
Oh, me, is it? All right. So you have met some incredibly talented makers on your travels. So if you were stuck on an island, which 3 makers would you want to take with you and why?
Who can make a
Jamie?
boat? Whoever can make a boat. I think it would probably be Jackman. I'd get Jackman or Directa. Because those, Jackman, he's going to need to eat. Like, he's going to need to get off that island. So, and he's not going to eat me. So we're going to find a way to get off the island. And I think, it would probably be DeResta, Jackman, 3 makers. I can't, maybe like Ben Ueda. Maybe I would go with him as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
He seems like a guy who can figure something out. Yeah.
You kind of got a freebie with Jackman, though, because where Jackman goes, Patlap goes with him.
Oh, that's true.
We're turning something.
That's a bonus person.
You get your French down pat then.
Yeah. I want to talk about the record player that eats records.
Okay.
How long did that take you? That looks like a very intense build there.
Far too long, and it was too much for the contest. I think I went way above. I think I made the comment that it was writing a check that your imagination writing a check that your skill set can't cash. And so that was something that I just had sketched out. I used a little bit of AI in the beginning just to say, like, I have this idea. I want it to be kind of like a mimic from D&D that is this object that comes to life and will eat you, but looks like a normal object. And my partner in the Maker collab had said they had this vinyl archiver record player. It's a little portable turntable that would digitize records. And so I was like, oh, it consumes records. And so I started to think, what could I build? And I went way, I could have probably built that out of plywood and 2x4s. But no, I decided I was going to do Paduke and Wenge and maple, hard maple, and hand carve the teeth and, make it a giant box, a huge box. In fact, I had to scale back the design because I had my original design, and I actually tried to build this, was that the record player would sit on a tongue that when you open the box up would be cantilevered to raise up out of the box. I had to cut that part because I had already like done a crazy design here. So people love that project. It is the one project that I probably put the most work into. It's probably the most beautiful thing that I've ever done. And it's the project I hate the most. I hate it.
All of it.
I've
all
tried
in
to
one.
get rid of it. I've tried to get rid of it several times. My wife is like, nope. I was going to auction it off for charity. And no. She will not let me get rid of it. But yeah, that was a labor of love that really stretched every skill set I had. I don't regret it, but I think for the maker collab, it was far too much of an investment of what I compared to what I could have done. So,
well, it sure is pretty though. That's a beautiful
Thank you.
finish on the outside. It's nice. That's very nice.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
I think we got time for.
They were almost to death of me sausages. So if you don't know what the SOSS hinges, yeah. But now I know. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, you're good. The start of my sentence interrupted the middle of yours. So, for people that don't know, what is all the hubbub about the Cutting Board Awareness Month? All right,
Okay.
last round of questions here.
Last round of questions. This is a good one. This is the best one. So, in getting to know Drew Witt, and we're like friends, and we text each other all the time now. But in the course of developing that friendship, we both found out things about each other that we didn't like. I don't like when people do those ASMR like glue pulls, or when they do like the plastic pieces.
Yeah.
So he started to send me videos of him like slowly doing that all the time. Every time we get a new electronics piece or whatever, he would just slowly pull the plastic or whatever. So then I found out he didn't like cutting boards. So it's been a running joke in his Discord community that he doesn't like cutting boards, right? He probably doesn't care, but he's like had a couple of contests and he's like, don't post cutting board stuff. I will ban you from the forums or whatever. And so I started every time I was either making one or I saw something, I'd be at Rockler and see the little cutting board clamps or kits. I would start sending him pictures because we're children. And so this just started to escalate with us sending each other things all the time. And then I was like, you know what? I think he finally got me really good one time. And so I was like, okay, so it really motivated me to just start creating content like every single day. I'm not going to do it this year, but I made something called a fake event called Cutting Board Awareness Month. It's in November. And then I encourage everyone I know to tag Drew Witt. That's WITT_Worx on Instagram. Tag him with everything you have cutting board related for the month of November and beyond. You can do it all year long, but he loves the cutting board stuff. I also will make some cutting board content, and I ended up shipping him a 2x4 cutting board. I made one out of 2x4s, and then I like finished it and everything. I had the beveled edges and everything, and I ended up writing on it with a Sharpie, and then doing some kind of transfer of his logo and my logo with a heart in between or something on the other side of it, and sent that to him. And so he's still got it, hung it on his wall. But he's a good sport about it. But please terrorize Drew Witt. That's WITT_Worx on Instagram.
There we go.
With all your cutting board content in the month of November.
Oh my God.
Nice.
Oh,
Now we know.
That's and everybody else will.
Trolling is my love language. It is. So, and everyone knows this. Like I think that's the best way to express your friendship is to just troll your friends. So.
Don't watch my reel. Well, I don't know if you'll see it, but you may have a few cuss words for me if you see it when it comes out, because it has to deal with plastic.
It's fine. It's only when Drew sends it to me, honestly.
Well, I know
it's only the slow ASMR on purpose that has been way overdone. And so I was just, it's really more like what Drew does it. But yeah, it's good.
So my last question is just going to be a quick about your 3D printer, and what's your probably your favorite piece that you've 3D printed? Because I saw a couple of them that were pretty elaborate. what was probably your favorite piece out of that?
Well, I have a hammer back here that is
Mhm.
pretty cool. I put my logo on it and everything. But I think my favorite thing, the thing that was a huge hit in this house, were all of these collapsible middle finger lightsaber type things that I printed, and I learned how to print them in all different scales, like down to like 2 inches tall. They can fit in your pocket, up to probably 18 inches tall, huge fist that you can use like a lightsaber sword. So it's those are my favorite things. I've done them in multiple colors. People request them all the time. I think they are probably my favorite thing. They're all over the house. Yeah.
You just crack and it comes
The
out.
best use of 3D printing. I don't have one handy because everyone has stolen all my middle fingers. But if I did, I would definitely be putting it up right now.
Dude,
That's awesome.
I need that. That's a good one for the.
I'll send it to you. It's a paid file, but I'll send you the STL for you. It's well worth it. It's only a few bucks, but it's great. It's great.
Oh my God, that's funny.
Oh dear. So my last question is, what is your favourite wood?
You're trying to make him cuss, Jamie.
I said pine before as a joke, but what I'm going to say now is Padauk is my favorite wood.
Padauk.
It is the Red Devil. I hate working with it sometimes because the dust goes everywhere, and I'm reminded of it months later. But Padauk is by far, especially if you learn how to. I know that maybe this wasn't a serious question, but if you learn how to seal it the right way, if you fill the grain, do the steps to properly put the shellac and then seal with a top coat, and keep it out of the sun, it will retain a lot of its color. So Padauk. That's why I made that record player out of it.
There you go.
What's the next tool that you're wanting to put in your shop? Anything special?
I'm actually thinking about reducing the tools in my shop. One half of a 2-car garage is completely full to the point where I can't.
That's blasphemy.
And they're old tools. They're not like, I don't have a CNC. I would say CNC is the short answer to that. I don't have a CNC. I've got the other robots. Got the 3D printer. I've got a small laser that I just started playing with. But a CNC would be the next move. That's probably why I'm thinking about downgrading from a full-size table saw to a compact saw again, getting like a saw stop one, just to save the space. That's what I started with. And I was able to, everything's on wheels, so I would go out into the driveway and do a lot of this stuff. But as I've rebuilt the shop as it is now, I can't really do any work without opening the garage and moving the car out. So I really like to reduce I'd like to go back to the small shop mentality and make space.
So I heard you. You had your hand. I heard you. You want to move the car out of the shop.
I would love to, but I have not been able to win that battle yet. No matter how many beautiful things I build,
if you put a CNC there,
table, I redid the kitchen. I rebuilt an island in the kitchen, and it still didn't win her over to move her car out. So
if you buy the CNC, you put it where the car goes. She can't park it there.
Yeah,
Just saying.
It's just not working.
He'll be sleeping on that CNC then. That's what
Right.
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Street.
All right, Malcolm. Again, thank you. It was a pleasure for taking the time out and being with us. It was a good time. Here's the time. If you got anything coming up, you want to let all the listeners know. Here you go. We got all your links down below.
I'm Bossa Nova Woodworks on Instagram. I do a little bit of YouTube, a little bit of TikTok, same handle. I appreciate you. I tag me on Instagram if you take part of the Shenanigans and Cutting Board Awareness Month, or just look me up at all. I like the interaction. I appreciate everyone in the chat. I appreciate all of you guys for having me here. This is a blast. Thank you.
Thank you,
Matthew.
Thank you.
I'm actually working at the Jobby Job, sort of, building a replica of Jake's shop. Jake's cure room there, his resin room, for my my shop, I have some stuff I have to do in there. So we're actually doing it's like almost 600 square feet building that I'm putting inside of it to be temperature controlled. And basically it's a clean lab is what I'm doing. So that's what I'm in the middle of doing right now.
Nice.
Hmm.
Jamie.
I'm getting some turn-ins done. That's about it in my workshop. And then we've got cartoons on Saturday.
Okay, Saturday morning cartoons. I was part of a live event, charity event last night. It was super fun, and we're doing a giveaway for that one on cartoons. We're giving a giveaway for the Blank Club and the Silver Ticket Club, and whatever else somebody wants to give away of my stuff on Saturday morning cartoons. And I'll probably make some things too. So come and see us.
Mm-hmm.
Just a friendly reminder, WITT_Worx. Tag him all the month of November. Please make sure and tag him, tag Malcom, Bossa Nova Woodworks, so he knows that you did it. And nothing but cutting boards, baby. Malcom, thank you again for hanging out with us tonight. It was great. Drew, I hope you get 1,000 tags, but anytime. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us tonight. Same time, same place, same beautiful faces, and we are out of here.